Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to U.S. Government Semester 1 and Quarter 2 study session. Today is August 10th, 2018, and this is Mrs. Gonzalez. I'll be your host today. We do not have any students joining in yet, so I'm going to wait another minute or two, and if we do not have any students attending the live session, I'm just going to go ahead and skip right to the final exam content. So we're just going to wait another minute. Okay, our agenda for today, for the first 15 minutes, we're going to go over final exam study tips. Basically just what to expect, what kind of questions are going to be on the exam, and then we're going to go right into the final exam practice where we're actually going to take a look at questions from the final exam, and that way you can get familiar with the types of questions that will be asked. All right. Here are some general study tips for the final exam. For this final exam in semester 1 and quarter 2, there are a total of 35 questions. And the types of questions on the exam are multiple choice and short answer. There are 32 multiple choice questions, and there are 3 short answer questions. We will also be taking a look at those short answer questions. As for a passing grade, many students wonder, okay, what do I need to get on the final exam? What happens if I fail? What happens if I have an A and I still fail the exam? All students, regardless of their overall grade in the class, are expected to pass the final with a 60% or higher. If you do not score at least 60%, you will have to retake it. And we'll go over that in just a minute, over what happens if you have to do a retake. So again, keep in mind, you need a 60% to pass the final exam, which also means that you need a 60% on the final to pass the class as well. So this exam is worth 100 points and 10% of your overall grade. So let's say you're coming in with a very strong A, B, or even a very strong C. If you don't do well, so if you don't, let's say you get 60%, you can still pass the class. Again, you have to have 60%, but because it's 10% of your overall grade, which really isn't that big, but if you're teetering on a 60% overall in the class, or 61, maybe 62%, this could affect your overall grade. It could bring you down to failing if you do not do well on the exam, so keep that in mind. You can use notes on this final exam and on all final exams, not just for this class, but for all classes. You are allowed 1 full page, front side only, of handwritten notes. I understand it is the age of technology, and I take notes on a computer. So if you have computer generated notes, I think that's okay, to be honest with you. If anybody questions you at the final exam, just say, hey, you can contact my social studies teacher, Mrs. Gonzalez. She said it's okay. So back to the question, what happens if you don't pass? You guys are all going to pass. We here at Graduation Alliance, we make sure that we are helping you reach your goals. And one of those goals is to pass all your classes and to pass your final exams. So we're going to make sure that you're going to pass. So if you don't pass the first time, you can take your final exam 1 more time. Again, this is after studying, after looking at what you missed on the test, after contacting your teachers and knowing what it is that you need to study. You can take it 1 more time. If you don't pass on the second time, your teacher, in this case me or your other teachers in your classes will work with you to complete an alternate assessment. And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I very rarely have students have to do an alternate assessment because they figure out what they need to improve on their second time around the final exam. But when we do have students with alternate assessments, your teachers work with you. Alternate assessment could be anything from a PowerPoint presentation to an essay. It could be redoing some questions on the exam. So there's a variety of ways that we will help you not only pass a class, but achieve the skills and the expectations, the standards for this class. Okay, some final exam study tips, additional final exam study tips. The final exams must be taken in one sitting. You cannot pause the final exam and then come back to it at a later day and time. That's because there's a time limit on it. There's a 90-minute time limit. So again, the final exam must be taken in one sitting and you must take it in 90 minutes. If you feel like you are not ready, do not take the final exam. It is much better to do well the first time around than to have to retake it. And how do I take my final exam and where do I take the final exam? That's a common question I get from students. If you have a local advocate, and you will know if you have one, it must be taken at your meetup. If you do not have a local advocate, contact your academic coach. I have put on the screen here a phone number which you can reach them at. It's 855-945-5472. Because this is being recorded, you don't have to write it down. You can go back and you can look at the recording itself if you need that number, or you can message me through your class if you need that number again. Okay, some additional information about final exam rules and deadlines. There is an expectation that you will complete the final exam within 30 days of submitting your last assignment. In other words, you have completed your class. All you have left to do is the final exam. As soon as that last assignment is in for the class, the ticker starts. You have 30 days to finish it. I do not recommend waiting those 30 days. The reason why is because, sorry, I'm having some issues with my speakers. The reason is because you're gonna retain much more information within those few days of completing your class, and you're going to lose more information as time progresses. So keep that in mind. After 30 days, you're not gonna be able to retain as much information as you would within the first couple of days of completing your class. There is a 3-month limit as well. So if a final exam is not taken within 3 months, so that is the absolute deadline for a final exam, then you're gonna have to take the class over from the beginning. So even if you completed all of your assignments and you have an A in the class, if you have not taken your final exam within 3 months of submitting your last assignment, then you have to start it all over again. So keep that in mind. Please stay on top of final exams. There is also a final limit of 4 final exams. So let's say you are cruising through your classes and you have 4 or more overdue final exams. Your academic coach is going to put up a gate on your account, meaning you're not going to be able to do more classes until you take and pass those final exams. So keep that in mind as well. Sorry, it says here, until you take at least 1 final. And this shows that you're committed to taking your final exams. And if you cannot access your final exam, or if you have questions about these deadlines, please contact your academic coach as soon as possible. Again, I have provided the number there on the screen. Okay, so make sure that you review the study guide and that you take notes while you're reviewing the study guide. There is a study guide at the very end of this class. Before you take the final exam, I'm going to show you where that is. There is a study guide that tells you what to study exactly. So let's take a look first at that study guide, and then I'm going to take you to a Word document that shows you how to take notes on that study guide. So let's go ahead, let's review the study guide itself. Let me pull that up, give me just a second here. Okay, so I am logged in to US government and I'm going to scroll down here in week 5. It says final exam study guide. I'm going to click here. And here it says, in the past 2 sections, we have covered a lot of topics about government. As you prepare to take the final exam, review your notes from all the quizzes and activities. So that is another thing that you should study. We'll talk about that here shortly, quizzes and activities. And then it says, reflecting on the following questions should guide you in successfully studying for your final exam. There are several different questions here about what you learned in the course. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm going to go ahead and let you read them. But what it says, the very first one is, what is the difference between government, politics, and civics? The second one says, how can you fulfill civic responsibilities? So these are supposed to guide you on how to study. So what I did was I took all of these questions, which are our study guide, and I cut and paste them into a Word document. So I'm going to show you here. I have this Word document, and these are my final exam guide notes. And I took them, I copied and pasted them, and for each one, I thought, okay, what units do I need to look at? What lesson do I need to look at in order to know what the difference is between government, politics, and civics? So from memory, and because I go through this class quite a bit, and you're gonna have to dig a little bit deeper and think, oh, okay, where was this? Where was government, politics, and civics? I know it's in Unit 1, and this is the nice thing about this study session is you have access to this information. So you can review at your leisure. You can, I have put in all the units where you can find this information. I'm not putting in the answers, of course, but this will help you go directly to the units of where to find these answers. So for instance, I know that in Unit 1, I can find the differences between government, politics, and civics. So let's go to Lesson 1.1, Intro to Government and Politics. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go to lesson 1.1. And again, we're looking for the definitions of government, civics, and politics. So I'm going to, just quickly scroll through these pages. Okay, look, there it is. Government, a political institution organized to govern or regulate a community of people. So there I have government. And then there's actually a really quick question about government. And let's see here. Politics is the process of how people make collective decisions. Okay, I'm going to write down, I can actually just copy and paste these notes. So for instance, with politics, I'm just going to move over here and I'm going to copy and paste it. Okay, moving on from there. We know that we're looking for civics, and you can review on this page what politics is. And then civics. Civics is the study of how and why citizens participate in their community, society, and government. I'm going to copy and paste that. And now I know what civics is. So you get a general idea of how you can use this as your study guide and how to look for answers. Again, I have put the units on here, so take a look at these units and you can take a look through each unit, each section of the unit to find the answers. I think this is pretty straightforward on how to complete the study guide. Okay, Another thing that you should study, of course, are your assignments. So make sure you review assignments. Anything that's auto-graded, if you remember, you took what are essentially their quizzes, and you received feedback on them instantly as far as, you know, the score as well as which answers were the correct answers. Review those assignments. Review any projects or essays that you did. I know that there's a PowerPoint some of you have to complete in your classes. There are also essays, and we're going to take a look at those as well when we actually look at the questions for the class or for the final exam, the short answer questions. So make sure you do that. Let's say I want to review auto-graded assignments. Keep in mind that you can redo any auto-graded assignment as part of your review. And if you happen to score higher, that's awesome because you now have a better score going into the final. If you happen to do worse, then you know what you need to study. But keep in mind that you also will retain the highest score. So let's say you got 100 on the very first quiz and you went back and redid it because you needed to study, but you got a 70%. Well, you're going to keep your higher score no matter what. It's not going to assign the lowest score. It's going to always assign the highest score. So if we look, at, let's say, what is government 1.1.1? You're not going to be able to, I think this is because I did not finish the assignment, but you're not going to be able to redo this. You're going to have, or you're not going to be able to see what you originally scored. You're going to have to redo the quiz. So that's how you would go in and study the assignments, the activities. If you needed to look at something else, let's say you have a discussion that you want to look at, or you have a PowerPoint or a short essay, you would just click on that assignment. And you should either be able to scroll down, or if you come up here to this button up here, the I for information, you can read feedback from your teacher. And you could see the submitted assignment. All right, and as I said, just make sure you redo any low scoring work. It's going to help bring up your grade, and it's also going to help you do much better on the final exam. Look for feedback, and again, remember on auto-graded assignments, you will still get the highest grade attempted. So you don't have to fear getting a lower grade. I know it's a big deal if you have 100%, you want to keep that 100%. So yeah, you will keep that 100% even if you score lower. Okay, we're going to skip through the questions because we don't have any students joining us today in the live session. But if you do have additional questions, reach out to me through chat, email, you can text me. I will have information at the end of this presentation on how to contact me. All right, final exam practice. These are sample questions from the test. And we're going to look at a variety of questions, and I'm going to take you through the type that they are, and then the first couple ones will actually show you the answer. So you're going to have an answer for the final exam. That's great. So sample questions from the test. These are the multiple choice questions. So a multiple choice question is when you have a question or a statement, and then you have to choose from different options. So in this case, the question is, the power of local government comes from, is it A, federal government, B, city government, or C, state government? Again, this is one of the topics that's on your final exam study guide. So make sure that you review this. So this is an example of a multiple choice question. The answer is, of course, state government. Okay, then we also have true and false questions. And here is an example from the test. The president can serve more than 2 terms, 8 years, if the majority of citizens vote for them. So this is going to be, I know for a fact, this is going to be under the executive portion of this class, so the branches of government, and then I know that this is under the executive because the president is under the executive branch of the United States government. So is it true or false? The answer is false. And if you need to revisit this as to why it's false, make sure that you do so in your course. If you have any other questions about this particular question, again, feel free to contact me through the different ways that I'm going to present at the end of this presentation. All right, there are also all of the above options. So if we look at this question, it says Brown versus Board of Education was an important court case because, so why was Brown versus Board of Education important? And then it gives you, if you notice, A, B, C, or D options. And under D, it's all of the above. Keep this in mind. It could be A, B, or C, or it could be D. It could be all of the answers above. So keep that in mind. Make sure you read through each one of the possible answers all the way through. Don't just go for all of the above. It's not always all of the above. So make sure that you, if you need to review this question, that you go back to the section on the judicial branch, and it does talk about Supreme Court rulings, and Brown versus Board of Education is one of these. Okay, you're also going to have questions that involve matching. So you have to match the answers. And this is an example. On the left side, you're going to see either it could be it could be a key term, it could be a description, and on the right, you're going to have the answer. So in this case, the first question asks, the study of how, it's not a question, it's a statement, the study of how and why citizens participate in their community, society, and government. So is that politics, is it civics, or is it government? The second question is, or the second statement is, this is a political institution organized to govern or regulate a community of people. So which one of those three is it? And then the third one is the process of how people make collective decisions in large groups. So you're going to match the answers. You're also going to have none of the above options. So we said all of the above in the previous one, and then there is a possibility that some of the answers given don't fit the question or the statement. So for instance, for this question, what are reserved powers? Reserved powers are, you're going to read through, is it answer A, is it answer B, or is it none of them? Is it none of the above? Make sure again to read through each answer, read the question several times, read the answer several times, and pick which one best describes it. Sometimes it will be none of the above, sometimes it won't be. Sometimes it'll just be A, sometimes it'll be B. So those are none of the above questions. So we're going to go into the short answer questions. I am actually going to present you with the short answer questions so that you are prepared for your final exam. The first question, and it could actually, these could come in any order, but the first question we're going through today says, in one paragraph, so if you remember, a paragraph is 4 to 6 sentences in this case, explain why the rule of law is important and what can happen in its absence or breakdown. So here's the thing, is you already answered this in activity 4.4.1. If you're in quarter 2, you're gonna have to contact your teacher because you don't have access to this assignment. So if you need that answer, or if you already know, you don't need to contact your teacher, but contact your teacher if you don't have that answer because you're no longer enrolled in quarter 1 where that holds this assignment. But for semester 1 students, again, refer to activity 4.4.1, why is the rule of law important? If you skipped over this assignment, you're gonna have to do it just because it is a question on the exam. So this question again covers the rule of law. Why is it important and what can happen in its absence or breakdown? All right, short answer question number 2. This is also from an activity. This is from activity 2.4.1. If you're in semester 1, if you're in quarter 2, again, contact your teacher if you do not have access to this assignment. Because, actually, sorry, let me rephrase that. You don't have access to the assignment. So if you need the answer, your old answer, you need to contact your teacher. So this question asks, what are some of the constitutional principles and values promoted by Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail and the Equal Rights Amendment? So what are some of the constitutional principles and values that these were promoting? Your response should be at least 3 sentences in length. So keep in mind, 3 sentences. The other one was 4 to 6 sentences in a paragraph. This one was 3 sentences. And if you notice, if you go to the, once you're on the final exam, I can't show you this straight from the final because I would have to go through the final exam myself. But I know that this is part of it, is a rubric, and this question shows you how you will score depending on what you have written. So if you decide to write 1 sentence, then you're not going to meet the expectation right here. It says less than 3 sentences were written, and the response is not on topic. If you want to exceed and meet the expectations, then you need to fall into this category. Okay, we're going to move on to the final short answer question. Okay, short answer question number 3. Again, there are only 3 of these on the exam. This is the 3rd one. It says in 1 paragraph, explain how the United States has influenced other nations. Consider including information about American political, economic, technological, or cultural developments. Semester 1, you're going to refer to activity 7.4.1, the U.S. influence on the world stage. You answered this question in that activity. And for quarter 2, you're going to refer to activity 3.4.1, the U.S. influence on world stage. Again, you have already answered this, so you are prepared. If you have skipped these assignments, you really need to go back and redo them. Once again, a rubric will be provided for you. This is what the rubric looks like. So a rubric is just a guide. It tells you what you need to score, or what you need to do to score a certain grade. There's exceeds expectations, meets expectations, and you don't want to be here, does not meet yet, meaning that you will have a chance to redo the final exam if you do fail. Okay, so those are the 3 short answer questions on the final exam. I can answer any questions about the final exam or even about how to study for it. So again, contact me. And this is how you can contact me. I'm Mrs. Gonzalez. My phone number and my texting number are there on the screen at 724-913-3621. I can be called and I can be texted at this number. My email address, please make sure that if you are trying to contact me, you spell my last name correctly. Many students will misspell my last name. Sometimes they add an S at the end, or they just mistype the last name. I will not receive your message if it's not written, or if it's not typed correctly. My office hours are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time. So keep this in mind. If you are somewhere in Washington, you're going to be 3 hours. There's a 3-hour time difference. So you're 3 hours behind. So I'm 3 hours ahead. Sorry, I'm 3 hours ahead. So keep that in mind. 1 o'clock your time is the absolute latest that you can reach me, unless you set up a meeting with me, and that's fine. I don't mind doing that after hours, after 4 o'clock. So if you need to set up a time to meet on the phone or text or chat, that can be arranged. All right, everybody, thank you very much for joining us today, and feel free to contact me with any questions about the final exam. I know you're going to do great. You have some questions already provided for you. Feel free to review this video so that you can be a little bit more ahead on the exam. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye, everybody.